how it feels before you watch this video. How it feels when you're done watching this video. It'll be fun to clean up. Oh, all ones also. Drop my cards too. Why do my cards fall out? Oops. Howdy. No, okay. Nope. What up? It's your boy, Zealand. Well, now that I've survived that, it's time to talk about finances for the first time ever in a video. You might have noticed that I have been passionately avoiding this topic for a very long time. The reason is there is quite simply no trick to making a lot of money in Football Manager, and my snarky answer a lot of the time is just win more and the money will come. That is not necessarily true. You can win the same amount, but end up with a lot more money if you handle things the right way. So it's time that I sat down and explained to you how to handle things the right way in order to maximize the amount of money coming in. Because after all, in 6 years, I've been able to put together a $100 million transfer budget in Belarus. And that took a lot of practice and studying and learning. And now it's time to impart that on you. And like a big knowledge bomb. And just so you know that I didn't fluff these numbers, I streamed the entirety of this save on Twitch, which you can watch and follow down in the description below. There's a link that you click on it. That's how you watch and... Okay, I'm gonna go. While I was putting this video together, I really came up with a system. Now, the amounts of money that are being made at each step can be scaled to however large of a club you are and how much money you need to make up relative to the teams around you, but that system is what's turned into these steps, and if you follow it, you should have success. Now, you do need to be able to win, obviously, in order for a lot of this to work. Gee, thanks, man. Leave your reviews of my quarantine beard in the comments below. Let's begin. Section 1. Section 1 is taking stock of where your money is going to be able to come from. Every league situation, and I mean every league situation, every competition situation, is going to be different. So you need to take stock of where you are compared to other teams in your league, where you are compared to other teams in different competitions you'll be competing against, and this is how you do that. First, you retreat into a tiny corner next to the screen. Second, you actually leave the finances section and go to competitions. Once you are here, you then click on a competition. You go to overview. You go down to rules. It is here on every competition that you will see the prize money that is awarded for achieving a position in the competition. As you can tell, winning my league has not allowed me to make $100 million. Now, the Champions League, on the other hand, has really helped me out with that. But if you notice, you go to rules and you don't exactly see like the right amount of money. You can look this up online exactly, but when you make the Champions League group stage, you get like $16-17 million. And you'll also get a pot of the TV money, and this works the same way in all continental competitions on any continent. You will get a percentage of the TV money that goes into a pot based on which round you make it to. So the farther you make it, the more money you're going to get. But with a team like Bate, the early way to make a ton of money is to compete really hard to get into a group stage. You get a few million for the Europa League group stage. You get 17 for the Champions League group stage. So the obvious financial priority was here all along. I mean, shoot, the first time I won a Champions League match, it like doubled my budget. I went from 3 to 6 million. So if you're in Europe, this opportunity is obviously available, but if you're not going to be able to compete in European competitions for a few seasons unless you have a really miraculous run, then take stock of every other competition like cups and leagues and try and figure out where your financial priorities should be in order to elevate the club's balance long term. The other thing you need to do when you're in a league in particular is to figure out how much money the teams around you have, and so you can know how much distance you need to make up to be competitive in those situations. So you go to stats and team detailed. Really glad that no matches have been played yet. Let's go to a different competition. It's not even the stuff that I'm trying to look up. Like, can I go here, team detailed? and then this is the net transfer spend, and then this is the net salary per year of every team in the competition. So you can figure out exactly how much you need to make up or how far ahead you are than everybody else. This is the Belarusian Cup, so there are a couple of really bad teams. Now it's time for step number 2. You understand where your sources of revenue are going to come from in competitions. The better you do in those competitions, the more sponsorship money is going to come your way, depending on the results in those competitions and the reputation of your club. But that sponsorship money is actually not going to make up a huge difference, except in very rare circumstances. It's something that will just kind of help you out even more as you start to win. What you need to look at next is how well your club is doing financially, regardless of what competitions you have a chance to win money in. So, boom, section 2. And for this, we are actually going to go back to the finances section. Now, when you come here, you're going to get a quick appraisal from the FM gods on what your status is. You can either be rich, secure, okay, insecure. If you are insecure or okay, you are not on solid ground when it comes to your long-term projections. That means if no transfer deals happen, if there is no large influx of money from an overachievement in competition outside of what is projected to come into the club, then you are going to lose money. And you can figure out exactly where this money is bleeding if that's the situation by going to your expenditure. You can see last season's expenditure in a ton of different categories. The main ones are going to be your salaries, not just for your players, but also for your staff if you're at a large club. If you're at a very large club, other things like youth setups can end up costing you tens of millions of dollars, so it's worth keeping an eye on where that money is bleeding off to if your finances are not in a stable situation. Then you want to click on your income, and you will look at what I would consider things that are largely constant, which are income streams that are not going to change dramatically from year to year. Again, removing the fact that you could just go win the Champions League, and that's probably going to change them. Your competition prize money outside of picking up fantastic results is actually not likely to change year to year. If you produce consistent results and you get the team that did something last season, you can reasonably expect to do it again this season. So your competition money is something that you want to look at and take stock of. Other solid revenue streams that you want to watch are gate receipts, sponsorships, and TV money. If you're in a massive league, the TV money in particular is going to be something that you can count on and that will balance out a lot of your expenditures. So you can excuse larger expenditures if you're able to fit them underneath all of those things that can be considered largely constant revenue streams. And these not changing a ton over time is going to provide you the opportunity to actually budget out how much money you will make without any transfers in and without any transfers out throughout the course of a season. This will probably never happen, but you'll be able to find out if you're on a net gain or a net loss of money. This all brings us to step number 3, which is where we start making money and applying a lot of different ideas in order to make more money. That's what you're here for, right? You now have the backbone for it. Step 3 is what I actually did with Bate. Now, this is the sort of thing that starts small. You know, if you fold a piece of paper 42 times over, it will actually be thick enough to get to the moon. In the first 20, not even the first 20, the first 5 or 6 folds, the doubling of the width of the piece of paper, it's not, I gotta check this. Will a piece of paper folded 42 times reach the moon? That's a lot of math, but I'm gonna go with, yeah, it looks like it, huh? We start to see a massive increase at fold number 39. The point can be applied to what I'm talking about here. I mean, for the first 4 or 5 years, I never got a transfer budget that went over 15, 20, 25 million dollars. I think I might have peaked at like a full transfer budget of $30 million at any point in my first 5 years. But as you go along acquiring assets in the right way, all of a sudden you have the opportunity for this kind of explosion that happened to me in year 6, where I got a full transfer budget of $120 million. It's actually over $100 million. We'll take it back to the summary page. You can see that kind of trajectory, and there are a few bumps that have made all the difference for me. And these bumps were triggered by one thing: player sales. Now hold! I'm not just saying I got lucky and signed a couple of young guys that I sold. The guys that I sold, I could afford to sell. They weren't starting players. I have rarely sold a starting player on my own. The board has done that for me on a couple of occasions, but we don't like to talk about that. You are simply not going to, over a short period of time, make a ton of money without being able to sell the right players at the right time. My passive income, even at this point, with all the things that I talked about earlier, is about $25 million. You think, okay, if I put $25 million in the bank over 4 years, then I'm going to have $100 million. Of course, my passive expenditure is just about $25 million. I am break even when it comes to the amount of money that I spend on salaries for players and staff and bonuses and ground maintenance, all those sorts of expenditures that are just going to be there and are not going to change dramatically year to year. So every sale I make is going straight into, I now have this much more money. I've kept my income and expenditure balanced throughout the course of my save. It's just a force of habit at this point. It's something that I like to keep my eyes on, and I like to not piss the board off. And this gives you the chance to blow up when that opportunity presents itself. Which brings me to the fourth section, which is blowing up. There's a catalyst, and once that happens, you have to take advantage of it. Now, most of the time, if you're in most of the leagues in Europe, that's to say not the top 5 leagues, it's going to be you get into the Champions League group stage, and then all of a sudden a huge pile of money at something about $24 million in 1 year gets dropped on top of your head. Now it's time to spend it. And what you want to do, and what I did at Bate that has allowed this explosion, is I went and signed 4 or 5 players that I had been looking at and going, ooh, if I get the money. Then I got the money. I signed those players and then ended up selling them off and made $50, $60 million from selling half of the players off. I sold 3 of the 6, made $60 million. It was like, okay. And these guys I bought were 18, 19 years old. They're from all over the world, but they were young and talented, and I had identified them being young and talented. I didn't go sign a 30-year-old. I didn't go sign a 27-year-old who was going to make a huge difference for me now. I signed an 18-year-old who was a decent first-team player for me at the time, but in 3 years was going to be a dynamite first-team player for me, and was also going to be able to sell for 4 times the money that I spent on him. Do that again, sell the second wave of players, and I just sold my second wave of players that didn't quite make the cut, or I had 4 left wings that I liked, and so I sold one of them. And then all of a sudden I had a balance of $130 million. I know it sounds oversimplified, but look at this guy, Joaquin Pinedo, who I signed for, what, $6 million? $6 million 2 years ago when I got my first big injection of cash. I sold him for $60 million to China. The year before, Jabba Kolshar, I signed this guy for what, $1.4 million in my first wave of signings. When I first got a nice injection of European money, and then finally it came due, we got a $50 million offer for him, and I sold him. That's the other half of my transfer budget. Right now, those 2 guys. Obviously, you have to have a pretty significant amount of negotiating skill to get the $60 million. That or a significant amount of luck. I had a little bit of both. And I'm going to make a negotiating video at some point, so don't you worry about it. And then, when you impress the board with how well you're managing the finances, and how much you're using those finances in order to produce wins, the board's going to get happier and happier with you. The board's going to trust you more and more, and as the board trusts you more and more, the better percentage you are going to get of your transfer revenue. So I always ask the board, give me 100% of the transfer revenue. And you know what they always say? Yes, Zealand, and your beard looks great. They don't actually say the second part, but they do give me all of my balance and transfer budget every year, and they give me 100% transfer retention because they now trust me because I've done them right. No matter where you are in the world, whether you're in a second league in a major country, this is possible. You just have to follow through on when you get that money. You take advantage of having balanced your finances in the years before. But I've added another section. This is the last section, section 5, which is extra little tidbits to help you just make some money on the side. And yes, I'm going to talk about friendlies. So outside of that massive overall strategy for waiting for your injection of cash, there are some ways to make some significant money. Now, I can't do this in Bate or in Belarus because it's a summer league, so I can't arrange friendlies against good teams. What you can do is you go in and you arrange a friendly. Click this little drop down and create a cup or a league in the preseason. Add 3 or 4 massive teams to it, and you can make upwards of $3-4 million. Let's say if you're a championship team in England, it's an excellent example. You have enough reputation that you should be able to play against some really large teams from different countries. And you can go and set up a preseason league, make $3 or $4 million that can really help boost your budget. That can essentially become something else that helps balance your budget. Almost a passive income. Then there's the other strategy that I endorse to a point. So if we look at my transfer out, you'll see that the vast majority of these players are out on loan, and the vast majority of the players that I have out on loan are never going to be first-team players for me. I'd say at least a few of these guys I signed with the intent of being first-team players for me also. But when I got the big injection of money, I signed a good collection of guys that I was pretty sure would never be good enough to be regular starters for me. That doesn't mean that I can't sign them for value, loan them out for a few years, and then sell them for 3 or 4 times that value. You're never going to make amazing types of money doing stuff like this unless you're one of the biggest clubs in the world. But what it can do is provide nice injections of $1, $2, $3 million here and there. If you loan them out to a club, they get regular playing time, people see they can play, and then they're going to want to buy them. And that never hurts to just keep bumping your money up like that. And of course, you're buying value. And there are a few other tiny things that I would love for you to tell me about in the comments that maybe I haven't even been doing in this Bate save. All those small things, they can add up to big things. And then once you start selling people for a lot of money, you're in a great spot. Remember, this whole system is relative. Whatever a lot of money is to you is great. Now keep it balanced, stay under your budget, make sure you can recoup the amount of money you're spending, and then win. I really do wish there was like a magic trick, but then the game would be too easy, right? This is realistic. That's why we love it. Have a great day. I'll see you on Twitch or any of the other links. I need to... Bathroom. How many should I buy? I feel like I should get... Like... How many...